Introducing EOS Cortex, a purpose-built data analytics platform for the construction and engineering industries. Generate new budgets using Cortex's predictive analytics. Optimize the budget using Budget Builder's powerful tools. Finalize and present the budget, including comparisons to previous versions of the budget or alternative scenarios. The budget creation process is easy, flexible, and transparent. Use factor indexes and reference projects to predict costs and quantities from your history. Establish a target size to ensure the budget accurately reflects the requirements of the project. The Elements tab displays initially. It's populated with the choices you made when creating the new budget. The General tab stores the project size and other important information, including placing an image with the budget. In Budget Builder, you can manage budgets in the Folders pane. Toggle to display all budgets or only your budgets. We'll save a copy of your budget to preserve the initial draft and compare them later. Once a budget has been created from the reference projects, optimize the budget to reflect the requirements of the project. Quantity and cost columns are available for the budget, reference projects, and statistics for reference project analysis. Indicators help you understand where the new budget's value came from. Show or hide thumbnails to maximize the screen area. Quantities are populated from attributes or statistics from the reference projects. In this case, the overall budget total quantity is populated from the target size entered when the project was created. The budget amount is divided by this quantity to represent the overall budget unit cost. When quantities are populated from attributes, a link indicator shows where the value comes from. For example, the average from the attribute substructure concrete is used for a substructure. Like the previous examples, the quantity is populated from an attribute. However, unit costs are populated when creating the budget based on the choices made when creating the budget. For example, in A10 foundations, the unit costs come from the average unit cost of the reference projects. If a quantity is not linked to an attribute, it receives the average quantity from the reference projects. Because the overall project size is different than the average of the reference projects, Cortex scales quantities proportionally. Indicators always tell you how the information is generated. The Attributes tab contains the metadata associated with the budget, including quantity, cost, and other information. Add and change information as needed to reflect the project requirements. Like quantities and unit costs on the Elements tab, numeric and quantity attributes are populated based on the statistical choices made when creating the budget. Indicators tell us how the data was populated. Quantities linked to the elements have indicators and notes showing the relationships. Although the quantities use reference project averages to populate the budget initially, you can change them. The Elements tab reflects linked attribute quantities. The Elements grid supports row and column editing and calculations that extend the ability to build up budgets. Manually changing quantities, unit costs, and amounts updates your budget in real time. When you change linked quantities, Cortex will also update the linked attribute. Locking an element prevents other budget adjustments from affecting your changes. If the historical reference projects do not include scope required for the project, you can add new rows from your cost element library. Remember to lock rows you don't want adjusted. Sometimes using specific reference project costs or quantities is preferred to the statistical data when creating the budget initially. Cortex lets you select specific data points from the reference project to use in the budget. Notice that rough carpentry wasn't changed, but Cortex used it in the allocation of cost for the B shell summary level. Likewise, you can manually overwrite the unit costs and amounts at any level, and Cortex will calculate the changes throughout the budget accordingly. Certain elements of the reference projects used to create the initial budget may not reflect the scope needed for that budget. You can find and use any historical project's element cost to replace the budget's initial values. Options allow you to select the required element data. A change summary displays those changes after you accept them. Further analyze your budget using charts and maps. You can also export your budget to Microsoft Excel and add or remove reference projects. When creating a new budget, you can exclude markups and indirect costs from the reference projects to allow use of Budget Builder's markups pane. The markups pane displays a subtotal that equals the budget's direct costs. Pre-built templates define the markup costs using various calculation methods. By percent, unit cost, or a lump sum over the budget's total, current total, a previous subtotal, or the cumulative budget total. You can delete and create new markups on the fly. When you are satisfied with the build-up, you can finalize your budget by forcing a target price that's consistent with a conceptual unit price. Displaying a low and high range can be defined in settings as well as the budget price and unit price inclusive of allocated markups. Get the budget ready for presentation by adding images, attachments, and summary information. You can also use comparative analysis to evaluate differences between previous versions or other budgets.